I'm very grateful that you've taken the time to give us a call. I've got a lot of questions from based around the UK, but I actually thought, I hope you didn't mind, but I thought we could start with current events that are currently going on out in the US and out in Israel at the moment. Because obviously you've got this 70-nation peace conference going on.
Yeah, there was a major event when the UN voted and Obama abstained from voting. That's pretty much the first step to fulfilling some of the prophecy that the Bible is talking about, that there's going to have to be a division or some form of peace with Israel before the Messiah arrives.
Yeah.
And so we're definitely keeping an eye on that.
Could it be our interpretation of the peace agreement? I'm wondering whether I know this 70-nation meeting that's going ahead at the moment is actually designed to cause more trouble than it's supposed to solve.
The Bible tells us what their intentions are. The globalists want to destroy the seed of Jacob, and that's pretty much Jews and Christians today.
Yeah.
All right, and that's their goal, because the globalists want their serfs, if you want to call them that again, or their slaves, or their property.
Yeah.
Which are human beings to them. They want them all tagged with these chips.
Yeah.
And Jews and Christians won't go along with the tagging program. They don't want to be tattooed
or marked
with a chip or anything of that nature. So there's only one alternative to the globalists do, is that to eliminate the people that won't go along with the program.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and the whole thing is manufactured along those lines, because there is resistance in the West to RFID chips, and
yeah, because you see, Islam doesn't have any resistance to this. They're actually loving it.
yeah,
See, they don't mind it, but Christians and Jews do. The Bible says not to take the mark.
yes.
It was already predicted over 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that comes up a bit later from one of the viewers touches on the subject of, how does this all happen? How can this all be predicted, 2,000 years ago? Which leads me into one of the things I've been musing recently, is that are world powers actually trying to manipulate events on this planet to match the book? This is something that I've been musing over more and more recently, because it appears to me that the powers that be throughout the world are trying to create a mirror image of the events leading up to and around Revelations. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, maybe some part of that might be true, but definitely part of it is not true.
Right.
Like the Bible talks about in the end days, he will make daylight into night and night into daylight.
Yeah.
Well, that is not an eclipse.
No.
That is a rotational delay of 12 hours. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, they don't know yet that the Earth is going to be slowing down. They have the wrong model. They're using the gravity-ruled universe instead of the plasma, electromagnetic ruled universe.
Yeah.
Therefore, the globalists are going to go underground on the wrong half of the Earth. They're going to be going underground in North and South America.
Yeah.
And that's the side that's actually going to be hit. So I would say that there's, a partial that which would be correct, and
Yeah.
a partial to that is not correct.
It takes 6 hours for the 26-degree pole tilt. Is that correct?
That's what my estimates are. Yeah.
Yes, 6 hours
that
each
would
way.
Generate, that's roughly 1,800 miles of tilt, which would give you roughly about 300 mile an hour wind.
Yeah.
That's equivalent to an F5 tornado. Grass doesn't stay in the ground with an
Yeah.
F5, and even if it was around 150, that's equivalent to a hurricane where, trees don't stay in the ground,
Well, this is.
It's going to be quite severe, and that's 90 degrees from the tilt.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to know where the tilt points are. There's two of them, just like drawing a shaft through the center of the earth to the other side. Those 2 points will have the least effect. But if you're 90 degrees from that, that's where the high winds are.
Yeah.
All the way around the globe. If you're at 90 degrees for that, and that's where the highest tidal waves and the flooding and all of the extreme severe patterns will be on that 90-degree area.
The UK is pretty much directly above the pivot point by about another, say, 26 degrees or so, I would say, straight up. And what I'm trying to gather is if the pivot point is where you say, it would surely mean that the Earth or the UK on that picture would either tilt to the left or to the right. Am I right in thinking that?
I don't know the exact degree difference between the pivot point of Israel all the way to the UK, but if you add up the angle, let's say if it is 25 degrees, okay?
Yeah.
Then you would suffer, you can break that down in a percentage, okay? So 25 to 90 would be, let's see here. Let's see what that would be. Roughly about, you can say 25 to 27% of the wind. You're looking at a percentage because if you were to map out where the 90-degree point is and put it and give you like 100% all the way down to 0% to the pivot point, that tells you the percentage of wind and the effect you're going to bottom. So if you're looking at about 25% of the worst effect, unless you're on the coastline. The coastline is going to suffer the most. Now, the UK does have problems, though. Earth is going to come to a complete stop for at least, it will add up to a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation. But that's the same equivalent of 12 hours of being completely, stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have 12 hours delay. Well, there's a bulge at the equator around Earth because of its rotational. That's gyroscopic forces that causes about a 12-mile ridge of water and land even.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Earth stops, some of the land will go down a little bit, but mostly the water is going to travel north and south. Like according to the computer models, it shows all of Canada flooded.
Yeah.
Even the northern states of the U.S. Most of Russia would be flooded, except for the Urals. And many places in Europe and many places in the UK, but that's if it was totally, all of the water was moved.
Yeah.
You're looking again at a percent of that. You're probably looking at maybe 25% to 30% of that amount of water moving to the north and the south pole. The further north you be, the more severe it's going to be. But a lot of these ice-capped countries like Iceland or the North Pole, this salt water is going to flood those areas, causing part of that fresh water to melt.
raising the levels
And so
even
when
more.
Well, yes, but it's all in a matter of time. It doesn't do it drastically in and out, you know.
Yeah.
So even after the Earth starts to rotate again, you're still looking at seas going to be higher than what they were in the past.
Yeah.
So living on the coast would be very hazardous. The Bible says not to live on the coast, and that's global. It says.
Yeah.
Basically.
But you mentioned something like even 100 miles inland.
Yeah, like in, let's give for instance the U.S., around the Arizona and New Mexico and other areas, even though you're 200, 300 miles inland,
Yeah.
it's still not safe
Yeah.
because they're below sea level there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once it bridges, it's going to completely fill up, just like it was. It used to be a prehistoric lake.
Yeah.
Well, the lake is probably going to be coming back again. Okay.
Well, that's.
And so, depending on where you are, the elevation, there's many factors. Not necessarily the mountain range is the safe. Mountain range is safe from flooding.
Yeah, but
It's not necessarily safe for earthquakes. When the continents were moving, that's when the land folded up to make mountains. So that tells you that where there's a mountain range, that's actually a weak point in the crust, and that's probably more likely to shift. You see?
Yeah.
So that's something you have to take into account.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the you said, you know, the UK has a few problems. I mean, the highest point in the UK is Ben Nevis, and that's 1,345 feet, I believe. Is it feet or meters? Feet above sea level, 1,345. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Missouri Ozarks somewhere up around that 1,000 foot above sea level, are they not? And
Correct.
so I was going to say, because most of the UK is, you know, only about 150 meters above sea level. You know, the highest points at any of the counties that I've looked at in the UK, many of them are 200 meters maximum above sea level. And from what I've envisaged, when the water starts sloshing around, as you put it, a lot of people in the UK expect the entire mainland to be submerged by at least a couple of 100 feet of water. Do you concur with that breakdown?
Keep in mind, a tsunami would climb further than the height of the wave.
Yeah.
Because it has some speed to make it carry. But there's a bigger factor to keep in mind is nuclear power plants are mostly along the coastlines and rivers.
Oh yeah.
And okay, so also the last 3.5 days, keep in mind that you're going to have some plasma discharges coming from the planet to Earth, like equivalent to 30-mile wide lightning bolt, basically.
Yeah.
It is, but it's a plasma discharge, because we can give that type of estimate because we found craters where the plasma has hit that's exactly 30 miles across.
Yeah, the Eye of Sahara.
One of them's called the Eye of the Sahara in Africa.
Yeah.
And that is not a meteor crater. It's a plasma discharge crater.
Yeah, and that's a fact, isn't it? That's proven because of the shape and the contour of the actual shoveling out where the plasma is struck. It's a different type of melt, is it not? It's not like lava or an explosive. It's kind of turned. Is it turned to a type of glass, like glass? Is it?
No. It doesn't have that. Remember, when plasma hits something, it actually separates the molecules.
Yeah.
Back to the periodic table. So it breaks things down, but in a periodic form.
Yeah.
It's just matter with Remember, plasma is matter, but it has additional energy that makes it into plasma. It's the fourth state of matter.
Yeah.
So it introduces more energy to the matter that it's hitting. And it incinerate. It doesn't necessarily melt, but it has the ability to melt if it needs to on the edge.
Yeah.
But it mostly separates the molecules where it turns to plasma. It just dissolves in front of you. And that's what we see. We have 300 foot of a mountain face at the eye of the Sahara that dissolves away.
Yeah.
Now, when this thing hits the Earth, if it's 30 miles across, you're looking at several countries in a circular point from the center of the discharge. That would wipe out all electronics from the given circle around that plasma hit.
Yeah.
And we can expect multiple. It's like one large lightning bolt that's 30 miles across.
Yeah.
Now, the crack of thunder from that would be deafening. You know, it's extremely, extremely loud, extremely.
Well, it would be a bang, wouldn't it?
Bright.
Yeah, electrical bang.
But anything within, let's say, 5 or 6 countries away from it, depending on the size of the country. I don't know what the distance would be, but you're looking at if those countries had nuclear power plants, all of their electronics would be fried.
Yeah. Yeah. Even backup.
And then, right. And then, if the flooding interrupts their wiring or floods their generators, like what happened at Fukushima.
Yeah.
So within 48 hours, you're looking at a meltdown and an explosion.
Yeah. And that's multiple.
So you can't be downwind of a nuclear power plant.
Well, I mean, we're all in a bit of a pickle there because everywhere has nuclear power plants and they're all based, for some reason, on the estuaries of rivers or on the sea, on the coast itself, which, in fact, is really, should the effects be as dramatic on the Earth as you say they're going to be, really, we're going to suffer nuclear meltdowns, well, at least 3 different places in the UK, and I think the US has, 20 or 30 nuclear power stations?
I think so. Quite a few. Matter of fact, there's not very many places in the UK that would be safe after this event, because if you have every third one to go off, let's say, not all of them, because chances are not all of them will.
Yeah.
But you're looking at a different situation, just like Fukushima. You had 4 of them that went bad.
Yeah.
Well, no one ever predicted that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if you've got 300...
No one's predicting...
Yeah.
No one is predicting or even engineered these facilities for this type of event, which is...
No. And of course, you know, with the sea the 300 mile an hour winds across open sea, you're talking about quite a considerable amount of water shifting and hitting the coast at the same time as quite possibly, you know, a lot of I mean, we're very lucky in the UK. I don't think we're too near any major fault lines, but there are fault lines out to the southwest of the country in I think it's the Atlantic, is it? That have had a couple of earthquakes in the last couple of days, a couple of 5-pointers out there that are very rare.
Well, think about this for a moment. You have English Channel that's filled with water. You also got the Celtic Sea, all right?
Yeah.
Well, the land, whenever this thing starts to straighten back out, remember, it's going to still 26 to 28 degrees, then it's going to have to come back very close to its original, anywhere between 4 to 7 degrees. That's what evidence showed us in the past and archaeological finds. So the land is while before the sea will catch up to the sea.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the English Channel coming inland.
Yeah.
Because the land is starting to move. And at its peak speed, that's at 200 miles an hour, the land is moving, and the water is trying to catch up to it.
Yeah.
So the southern coast of England and the southern coast of Ireland is going to be drastically hit out of all of the areas in the UK.
If you take Scotland being at the top of the UK, and you have that ground movement, obviously there'll be a counter movement backwards in the other direction that would then bring water down from the north across the north towards the south. Would that be right? A bit like sloshing a cup side to side. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You have a northern movement and you have a southern movement whenever it starts to straighten out.
Yeah.
So yes, you have those two areas, the north and the south. Each point of land is going to have much more severe flooding.
Yeah.
Than the east to west area.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the other thing I was going to ask about the east to west, because in the Midlands where I am, technically it's about 60 to 70 miles both east and west to a coastline. So the difference between the water sloshing north to south and east to west to me is quite considerable. Also got El Hierro down on the Canary Islands. Obviously, if all the volcanoes are acting up and exploding and going off everywhere, El Hierro has a good chance of slipping into the sea and causing a tsunami that will then, I think it will also affect America, but it will certainly come up round the corner of Spain and again come straight in our south coast. So it does look like the south coast will the world move. One of the questions I wanted to ask was, and this is only just a question from my point of view, is how sure are you about the trajectory of Planet 7X? You seem very confident. Well, you don't know whether it's going to pass to the left or to the right or underneath of us on the during the March crossing.
No, I can tell you, according to the data in the biblical record.
Okay, go on.
Okay, now people don't look at the Bible as being data, but it is, because it has a proven record in 14 cases of being accurately documenting the phenomena that they were documenting. Follows the scientific model when we bring a plasma universe with the elliptical course given to us by the Asian astronomers.
Yeah.
This is the exact same course that proves out these events in the Bible. And they didn't have the orbital mechanics, they didn't have the astronomy level needed, didn't have Kepler's laws of planetary motion to be able to think these events.
Yeah.
You cannot have, 14 consecutive wild guesses, let's say, and make them all accurate. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah.
He has to. They have yet to find an ancient telescope of the ancient Sumerians. Okay. So there's a flaw in their concept there.
In the Sumerian concept, or in Stitching's.
Yeah, Stitching never proved the 3,600 year cycle.
Well, I think that's
He
pretty
has
much.
no data.
Yeah.
He never pointed to a. See, all of the clay tablets are numbered.
Yeah.
He could have easily documented on clay tablets such and such, fate 3,600 year old. He doesn't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Let's just clarify, because we're talking about Planet 7X. This is a body, a heavenly body that you have analysed the data for and practically established a timeline for that is provable with data and biblical references and other references such as tapestries and portraits. people associate the word Nibiru, you know, like you said, it's been called many different things, Hercolobus, Nibiru, the Destroyer. I think you even said Zeus at one point. You know, there's been many names for that particular planet, but there's no provable data for this Nibiru 3,600 year orbit.
Yes, I would hate to think that there is two objects or more that's coming through our solar system that's the size of a planet. Okay? I personally believe that all of these sightings are actually one object.
Yeah.
Okay? But no one had hard data. Harrington was giving his best guess, and he came up with 1,019 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Which Marshall Masters states incorrectly.
Yeah.
He pulls up Dr. Harrington's official the astronomy
Papers, yeah.
Report papers printed in October 1988 in the Astronomy Journal.
Yeah.
And he purposely misquotes him.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Telling that Harrington was approving the 3,600 years.
Yeah.
You can go read it for yourself. He doesn't say that.
Yeah.
It's 1,019
Yeah.
years is what he had estimated.
Yeah. We see.
The 3,600 year orbit, it mainly comes from circular reasoning. One person said it and everybody is repeating it. But when you track it down, there's no hard data for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is something I brought up the other day, and part of the reason I admire your work, Gill, and the reason I follow it is because you actually put your name to what you're doing here. Now, I think I mentioned it in one of my Facebook posts. If you go far enough, you'll find several charlatans that have stepped in before you. One being Gill Broussard, who turned out to be a complete fraud. Another one called himself Alexandra Retrov, and his name was actually Trevor Alexander, Retrov being an anagram of Trevor. And they all predicted, or they all made clear it was a 3,600 year orbit, and that was from 2008. Another thing that irks on me is when people call Planet 7X wormwood, when it's not difficult to track down the origins of wormwood.
Yeah, wormwood is described as a fiery mountain. It's not described as a planet. Okay?
Yeah.
And it occurs on the second meteor shower. Well, the planet is already on its way out after the first meteor shower. It's on its way out.
Yeah.
It's going into deep space.
Yeah.
Okay? 5 months later, we're going to run into the debris tail where it entered our inner solar system.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's when the fiery mountain hits Earth so hard that Earth wobbles like a drunkard, like a hut in the wind. We're actually pushed inward slightly. All right? How do we know that? Because Enoch's calendar comes into effect. It says our year would be 364-day year. That has never been documented throughout any of history.
Yeah.
Now it will be. When Earth is pushed in, our year will change.
Yeah.
And that takes a very large object to hit Earth to do that.
Well, yeah.
Similar to Noah, a large object hit Earth, and the second event of Noah's flood, when the Earth was flooded.
Yeah.
And that impact made the Gulf of Mexico. That's roughly 110 miles across that fiery mountain.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've looked at that Mexico Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico, and like you say, the geological evidence shows that was a meteor or an asteroid impact. It was an impact upon the Earth.
Correct. And the only reason why scientists have not gone along with it because they have a problem with heat. When an impact that large hit, you got the force of blast to deal with, but it also creates a frequency that violently cause carbon molecules to vibrate where they spontaneous combust. And you have a ring of fire that goes all the way around the Earth, and it destroys all life forms.
Yeah.
So they say for this to be a crater, we shouldn't have life. But they forget that this happened when Earth was flooded. Therefore, there is no heat issue.
Yeah.
There is no ring of fire. Proving out that the only way that the water could recede is if it knocked off part of our crust, which is 71% of our crust was not. That formed the moon.
Yeah.
And now the water could recede.
Yeah.
And there's no issue with heat. You have a logic triangle that one cannot exist without the other. The moon cannot exist without a large impact. The flood cannot recede without a large impact and crust being ejected.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So you have a logic triangle that feeds on itself. That there's no other answer for this.
Wouldn't it have just turned it all to steam? I mean, that sort of heat. Would it vaporise the water as such?
Yeah, part of it. But you're talking about the volume of two major oceans. Remember, we had only water was covering the surface. You had crust. Remember, the ocean layer is the second layer.
Yeah, I didn't get that at first.
On top of that.
Yeah.
So it would vaporize only a small portion of the water.
Right.
But the frequency that goes out that would normally incinerate carbon molecules would have been canceled out because of water.
Right. I'm with you.
You see, so it's not necessarily, it was the frequency that is canceled out as well.
Yeah.
So that's the way that scientists know the moon came from the Earth, and they know it didn't come from Earth when it was molten.
Yeah.
It had to come from us. It was fully formed.
Yeah.
And they don't have a model that actually works for that, because it takes a large impact to make the moon, and they can't get past the mass of the heat. Well, the Bible solves that part. The Earth was flooded at the time of the impact.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that impact, the Gulf of Mexico impact, into a shock wave through the core of the planet that then bounced two different directions. One took 71% of the Earth's crust off, which, as you say, makes the same volume as the moon. But the other side, you said it created a mountain range. Which mountain range was that again?
Well, hold up now. Let's correct.
Yeah, I might have got a few things wrong there.
Okay. There was two waters. There was one underneath the continental crust, it was like a honeycomb, a granite honeycomb structure.
Yeah.
Which, when the Russians drilled into a deep drill, going as deep as they can, they found crushed granite with salt water at a certain layer, which they weren't supposed to have.
Right.
And that was part of that honeycomb where the water was. But there's outside text that says, the Bible mentions upper firmament.
Yeah.
That the floodgates of heaven opened up. Well, the floodgates of heaven is more than a rain. When there's outside text, there's seven floodgates were open. 7 meteors punched the upper canopy of water they had.
Yeah.
Okay? And that also started that water coming down. And it took 40 days for the earth to get flooded. The earth stayed flooded for 150 days.
See, that's the bit I wanted. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because obviously we all know that the story of Noah, where it says it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And that was what caused the flood. It wasn't a tsunami as such. So with this first passing, one of the passings, close passings of planet 7X, you've tied that to Noah's flood. So with that, how did it become rain? Are you saying the impact of a large body into the planet caused all the water to go up and then come down as rain, or have I misunderstood that?
It's not really rain. It's at the floodgates of heaven. You have think of it more like a waterfall.
A deluge.
7 waterfalls it's emptying the canopy of water that was around the earth at one time in the upper atmosphere.
Right. Okay.
And that took 40 days for it to empty the canopy. But you also have water coming up. You had springs coming up from underneath. So you had water from below coming up, and you had water from above. Okay? And from the impact of the Gulf of Mexico, whenever you put the continents back together, where it was Pangea, the only reason that Pangea was one continent is because it was landlocked.
Right. I've seen that.
You know, it was locked by land, because if Earth was molten and it was spinning, you would have continental crust evenly spread out throughout the globe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Earth would wobble so severely, you couldn't have any coastal communities. You'd have tidal waves every certain amount of cycles.
Yeah.
So you couldn't live along the coastline, and that's not what the data shows us. We had coastal communities. So after the event of the flood, that's when the pits broke apart, and they went quite rapidly apart, because Earth was trying to balance itself. And but when the impact hit, the pressure wave went against our core at 22-degree angle. When it ricochets back up, the pressure wave, that's where you have the Himalayan mountains.
Yeah.
The Himalayan mountains are made into a semi-arc, which matches the pressure waves bouncing off of the core of the Earth, and the Himalayas were made in seconds.
Yeah.
And they tossed out what's called monoliths today. Very huge rocks, if you want to call them.
Yeah.
Stones. One of them is Ayers Rock. Ayers Rock is the second largest monolith. And that was thrown from the Himalayas when Australia was closer, and it had a soft landing, and that's where it landed right there. We know that that rock is not native to that area.
Yeah.
And it's not burnt where it came from out of, that it didn't enter our atmosphere, because it's not burnt. And it doesn't have a crater where it shows that it has a soft landing.
Yeah, I've seen
13
that.
miles, 13 miles northwest, you can see where it touched down at an angle, just like you skip a rock on a lake, where it touched down, lost most of its energy, flipped over a few times, and then landed softly.
Well, actually, that's something.
Why there's no crater there.
That to me was very defining, because when you lined up Ayers Rock with the skid mark tracks 13 miles away, they're almost a perfect match. You can't dispute it, you know. And the soft landing, as you say, the monolith. This is basically a piece of rock from somewhere else that has gone flying out as the crust has come off, and as you say, skipped across like a pebble on the water. And it has left the marks showing almost, you know, identical to the grooves cut out of Ayers Rock.
Correct. You can see the striations all in one direction.
Yeah.
Okay, and the striations are so deep you could put a house in them. Okay, so what sort of force does it take to make that amount of cut in the same direction throughout the surface of the rock?
Yeah.
What kind of force does it take to eject it from the Himalayas all the way to Australia? It takes a large impact with much force to do that.
How can we be assured? I mean, these events, especially say the creation of the Gulf of Mexico with an impact. How are we so sure that the exact same scenario will play out again? Maybe this time round there won't be a mountain-sized rock, or is it sort of like a perpetual reliving of this event every time we get to this stage of the book? Is it?
No, it's not the same each time.
Right.
You know, what's interesting is that the Revelation was written at the time of Yeshua, which was about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, Revelation is predicting an event which is 6 events later. planet has passed 6 other times. And it's saying the 6th event will be the return of Messiah. And it lists all of the complications associated with it. Now, if an orbit of an object is unable, or it's not exact on the years or the days or the hours, how can you possibly make a prediction of the day that it's going to rise and even the hour after 5 to 6 events later? It's impossible for a man to do this.
Yeah.
That's off for the time. All right?
Yeah.
And predict where the pivot point is going to be. Predict that it says, remember, we know by using the model of science, picture a globe of the earth as a spherical shape.
Yeah.
Half of the globe is in darkness and half of it is in daytime at any given point.
Yeah.
Well, the daylight side in March is what's going to be hit by a meteor shower. Because the planet is going around the sun and coming back out, and we're going to cross the debris field, and that's going to hit the daylight side. All right?
Uh-huh.
It says in the Bible that the Messiah, the Messiah comes mid of night. Mid of night.
Yeah.
So, and he comes in Jerusalem, it says. All right. So that says Jerusalem is on the dark side, exactly midway of the cycle.
Yeah.
It also states that 1/3 of the trees, 1/3 of the grass, and later it says 1/3 of the rivers would be destroyed. When he said rivers in the text, he's describing continental crust.
Right.
So what happens to the globe is 1/3 of the continental crust. North and South America.
Yeah.
And that's exactly 180 degrees from Jerusalem.
So,
how did they guess that?
how you've been looking or searching up by Job's coffin and up in Sagittarius? I know you say there's still no sighting of anything. But again, I'm also acutely aware of the abilities of the governments to now make things invisible. Want to help. But one thing I was going to ask you, because I'm a great believer into our southern hemisphere dwellers at the moment, and there's an awful lot of chatter in Australia, New Zealand, and other places way down there in the southern hemisphere, going on about 2 light sources of a night time or at sunset in completely different areas, and it's quite compelling video to look at, whereas the sun goes down at 6:57 and yet the webcams are showing a further light source for a whole hour a few degrees off from where the sun would be, with a different hue to it. Have you had a chance to look at any of those videos specifically that show light sources? Have you got any thoughts on that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't have all of the answers, and I don't claim to know.
No.
But it's not. Keep in mind, if you have if the aurora that's active in the south pole, depending on the cloud cover and the atmosphere, it could cast the light, farther away from it without you having visual sight of the aurora. So I don't know the exact circumstances on what was taking place at the time.
Yeah.
That's not the way, but I can guarantee that's not the way a planet would appear.
Yeah.
The planet would appear, if it were to be seen this year, let's say, before March,
Yeah.
it would probably appear by the size of Venus.
Yeah.
Either equal to its brightness or even brighter.
Yep.
It won't get visually stunning in size till maybe the last 2 weeks of its approach.
That's what I've been trying to impress on people. I've seen loads of images of what appears to be a second sun, or what appears to be a planet the size of a 10-pence piece, equal to that of the moon, or slightly smaller. And your breakdown on that is again bang on. If it were that big in the sky, it would only be 4 days away. You would have millions of people see it. It would be all over the internet with different videos.
Well, let me help you out with a little bit of math.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see if I can find my reference material right here, real quick. Give me a second here.
Sure.
The Bible makes a statement that our destruction happens within 1 hour.
That's right. I read that today.
Within means equal to or less than an hour. Okay?
Yep.
Earth travels in forward speed in its orbit around the sun. Within 1 hour, it would travel 8.2 Earth diameters in 1 hour.
Yeah.
All right? And at the angle of march where this object comes in at, which is 44 degrees around that angle, you're looking at an object no greater than 7 diameters of Earth. That's the largest this object can be.
Yeah.
And with Dr. Harrington and so on, they estimated from between 5 diameters of Earth to 7, from what Don gathered. Okay, so
Yeah.
that fits within the data we have at present. So it's not the size of Jupiter, it's not the size of a sun, it's all these other, it's either, if you want to call it a planet/comet, which I think this is going to have a whole new category. It's not going to be called probably a planet, it's not going to be called a comet. It's going to have to be probably a brand new name that we'll have to give it.
Sure.
And it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
And so we have enough information to tell you it's not over 7 times
Yeah.
Earth's orbit.
Yeah.
Earth's diameter.
Yeah. That's and that you've been pretty much stuck religiously by that, haven't you? With the idea it's planet 7x. I think you took the 7 from the 7 times diameter, 7 times 7x. So because
right, that's
yeah.
What's interesting, we got the newest data on the March 15th, 16th sighting of the moon at the foot of Virgo, and she's burning it with Jupiter. Well, that changed our angle slightly to where the diameter is 6.66. Okay, so I'm not going to call it a planet 6.66.
No.
So I just
rounded up.
just rounded it off to 7.
Yeah.
But it could be smaller, it could be 5. That's just an estimate. Until we have a sighting, then we can tell you how large it actually is. And there is no valid sighting at this moment in the public realm.
Yeah.
They have something in the government realm.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the public realm that we can put our telescope on at this moment and give you actual size.
With my telescope, an old Meade knackered telescope, in fact the computer system on it's busted, I don't really stand much chance of finding a fresh looking planet in Job's coffin without being able to actually use the ascension and declaration, can I? I can't just point it up there, can I?
Job's coffin is above Sagittarius.
Right.
And Job's coffin is like if you close your fist with a finger pointing.
Yeah.
It acts like a hand pointing, okay?
Okay.
It points to the ecliptic. It's only, Job's coffin is only a pointer.
Right.
And it points to the ecliptic, where this object appears around Hanukkah.
Right.
But I believe our government has a way of blocking our view.
Gill,
Lasers, it's called cloaking.
Jill, I'm with you 100%
And,
on that. I'm with you 100% on that.
So, remember when Ronald Reagan gave a speech to the UN where he says if we had an outside threat to Earth, We put all our differences aside and come together. He was talking about this planet. And he was implementing what was called in the Star Wars space-based weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, those lasers can also cloak this object.
Yeah.
That's what you use for cloaking, is lasers.
Yeah.
And that's just bending light. That's all that is. You bend it. That's all.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can point a telescope straight at it. You're going to see what's behind it, but you won't see it.
Yeah.
So it gives you this, if it's the normal size, you can't tell any difference. So not until it rounds the sun, then they'll turn it off, and that'll be the 40-day warning of Job.
Yeah.
That's why the Bible clearly says the wicked and adulterous generation will have only one warning.
Yeah.
One sign.
Yeah.
That's a 40-day warning.
Yeah.
Because our government is interfering with it.
Well, I don't doubt
Otherwise, we'd
that.
have a lot longer.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that our government... I mean, our government over here have done absolutely nothing. You know how Putin has made a few veiled threats to release information on Nibiru? You know, my attitude towards that would be, well, why not release it anyway? Why use it to say... why would you ever say, oh, well, you know, if they carry on being like that, I'm going to tell everyone about Nibiru? Surely, if you were a decent stand-up person, you'd tell everyone about Nibiru anyway, whether it was... And I'm using the word Nibiru in their terms, not mine. So,
correct.
You know...
Why is it that he took 3 to 4 days to implement a 40 million?
That's it, yeah. 40 billion people.
Exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise for people to know where their underground shelter is.
Yeah.
To exercise on it.
So,
well, if that was for a nuclear event, you only got maybe 8 to 15 minutes at most.
Yeah.
Before getting hit. You don't have 3 days. And what he's doing is getting them prepared for the announcement of a meteor strike. Then you got plenty of time to know where your shelter is, to bring it and everything.
Yeah.
So he's alerting his people where the underground shelters are.
Yeah.
So they can know ahead of time.
Yeah. And the other thing...
Which our countries are not doing.
Well, ours won't even acknowledge that there is a possible, you know, a plausible threat from space.
Scientifically, I give a window from 2012 all the way to 2021.
Yeah, I saw that.
As a possible window for this thing to return, with a high probability to be near 2016 and 2017 as being the... now, that's a scientific window.
Yeah.
If you can get an object within a 10-year period, that would be calling it a bullseye. If you can get a 10-year window.
Yeah.
All right? We know the object is real. There is a real object out there. The outer planets show the effect.
Yeah, you see the perturbations.
Well, I have 4 white paper study reports.
Yeah.
The orbits of comets in our solar system are warped by unknown gravity.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, same area, space, Sagittarius. All the data is pointing towards Sagittarius.
Yeah.
On the ecliptic. Whenever you're looking forward south, that's Nadar. So there's a lot of inexperienced people out there. When they read a scientific paper that say south of the universe, they think of the polar south. That's not south of the universe.
No.
That's Nadar.
Right.
South of the universe is Sagittarius.
So
anytime someone's pointing you to the South Pole, they're wrong.
Okay, so help me
They
out
don't know even how to read the data.
So help me out then. Why are all these bigwigs flying down to the South Pole now? Like, you've had John Kerry nipped down there. You've had other people nipped down there. I think Putin was there a few months ago. Is that all stage theatre again? You know, to keep us looking down there when we should be looking to Sagittarius?
It's all about the tilt of the Earth. The tilt of the Earth is constant as it goes around the sun, per se, okay?
Yeah.
That's south on the southern hemisphere. When you put an infrared telescope, you got more nighttime skies to look south of the universe.
Yeah.
Not polar south. I'm saying south.
South.
All right?
Yeah.
Again, and if it's an infrared equipment needs to be like negative 300 and something degrees.
Yeah.
Well, having it in the whole region makes the equipment even work better.
Yeah.
And it's a very to isolate people and the information.
Yeah.
You know, internet is not prevalent there. It has to go through the normal communication line.
That's right.
So it's a good way of isolating it and everything.
It's like the webcams at the Neuromayer all come through the internet, so they can easily be corrupted. They could easily be intercepted.
Correct.
You know.
But they have more nighttime sky, more time for looking at nighttime at the southern skies than any given point on Earth is there.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. And remember, that's not nadar. They're looking south of the universe.
Yeah. Every bit of information I come across actually quotes just that. Says, oh, you know, the South Pole, John Kerry, there's a telescope at the South Pole, there's this at the South Pole, everything says it's coming from the south, you know. The thing I wanted to ask you, did you ever get a chance to have a chat with that Dave Dobbs as a planet? He does a, I know Rex from Leap Project interviewed him as well, but he has a theory that our you know the DNA spiral, yeah, he has a theory that our planet is moving like that. And that kind of throws my whole perspective of everything out. And I wondered if you were a subscriber to the idea that, you know, the whole system, the solar system is moving.
Earth travels the same way when it goes on its own orbit around the sun, because the moon, you have to go with the two masses and find the center point or the balancing point.
Yeah.
Is between the two.
Right.
And that point is what travels on the orbital path.
Yeah.
So unless this object has a moon of unknown size,
yeah,
and unknown orbit or whatever,
yeah,
then yeah. But I don't think it does have a moon anymore. No. I believe when it collided with Ceres, it's lost its moon because the planet slowed down to 1/20th, but the moons kept going.
Yeah.
And that's why you have Venus. Venus is not mentioned in the Egyptian records until around the sometime after or during the Exodus.
Yeah.
There is no records of Venus in the records.
So,
which says Venus. Venus does not have a magnetic field. Same thing as our moon. It doesn't have a magnetic field.
Yeah.
Because both of those don't have a core. They're probably moons. Okay?
Yeah. People don't understand the term meteor storm. They think it's like hailstones coming down that are burning. Right? But these meteors are massive, and the impacts, you're talking about impacts less than 70, 80 feet apart, and they're going to destroy, you know, quite a lot of everything. This is no sort of like, there's no hailstones that are coming down. You can't take shelter under a tin roof with what's happening. But the Tower of Babel one interests me because you say that it petrified the ground or something. It turned the ground to liquid. Could you touch on that and explain that to me?
Well, in 1833 there was a meteor storm. The difference between a storm and a shower is the amount of meteors raining on Earth, okay?
Yeah.
In 1833 they estimated the meteor shower of 240,000 were seen visible, falling continuously throughout the night. Some people would go to estimate that it was in the millions.
Yeah.
Okay? It was equivalent to almost snow. The amount of meteors coming through the sky, not hitting the ground much, but they were burning up, was almost as if it was a snowstorm. It was so prevalent.
Right.
And if we had ships at sea that saw this as well.
Yeah.
And that's a meteor storm. Well, just think of a meteor storm with large meteors.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's going to be quite devastating.
You know.
If it hits us and the Earth is not flooded, if a large one enough to hit, it could wipe out all life form.
Yeah. But
Okay?
a house-sized one.
If it's smaller, yeah, if it's a few miles across, it could change the axis of the Earth. It could make Earth wobble like a drunkard. It could push us closer or farther away from the sun.
Yeah. I think a few miles wide. A few miles wide would definitely be an event, an extinction level event, come what may. A few miles wide, the size of Manhattan.
Remember, it's coming in at about 10 to 20 times the speed of a bullet. A rifle bullet. The energy that's associated with that is significant.
Yeah. As an astronomer, you can adamantly say all this ball of fire stuff that people are talking about and red planets is not what we should be looking for in the night sky. We should be looking for a star, just like an extra spot.
A brand new star that's on the eclipse.
So if they all use,
you can turn on any astronomy software and turn on the ecliptic. It's a line that draws across the 12 constellations. The zodiac. There's a line that goes right down the middle of it. That's the planetary plane of Earth. For us to have a double meteor shower, it has to cross that path. It has to be on it. Because you have 3 fixed points. 2 on Earth's path and the center of the sun. So it can't be anywhere else.
Well,
okay? For it to match the data.
Can the public, using their stellarium on their phone or their star chart on their phone, round about now and through till March, can they point their star chart phones up to Sagittarius and they'll see all the dots on their star phone that should be the stars in place, and they can match the two?
Yes, the best. It's not going to look like the term second sun, which is the word helio, meaning illuminated object. It won't be that bright until it gets within the last 2 weeks of its approach.
By which time?
Before that, it'll look more like it'll either look like a comet or a planet. If it has a brightness factor, it's going to be similar to the size of Jupiter, but equal to the brightness of Venus.
Which is pretty bright.
And the best way to see it is after sunset. Right now, for it to rise in March, it's at the edge of Capricorn system. To the left of Capricorn. After sunset, I mean, it's in the upper regions of Capricorn. And then if it goes to February, it would be, let's see here, it would be in the northern part, or to the severe left of Aquarius on the ecliptic in February. So if it's not here within the first week of February, then I'm going to breathe a sigh of its release, and then wait until the next year to look for it starting in December to February again.
So you've no qualms that after February, if it hasn't materialised in that form by February, you're quite happy to go, right, I'll pack up my telescope until December. If we don't see it in March, it ain't happening in September.
If we see a peace agreement that happens between now and February, then I'm going to Jerusalem.
Well, this is why I say I often wonder if these things that are being simulated now, this 70 Nations Peace Conference, can be misconstrued through the Bible as part of Seal 5.
I think it's going to be pertaining to a Balaam.
Remember,
it goes along with the logic that for them to control the public before they see this, they got to ration money, food, and fuel.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's going to be the rationing of money, which will also cause a collapse in the economy, but more worse than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Now, the next one tells us that probably this hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Seal 4, it says a quarter of the world population, some people say, will die in a war.
Yeah.
But from the way I'm reading it, I believe it's the threat of death over a quarter of the world population.
Yeah.
Western nations will be under terrorism.
Yeah. Well, we already are, though. This is what I'm saying. A lot of your points, actually, we could tick the boxes with, especially the first one with regard to the economic bailing. All of the mechanics to do that in every Western Rothschild-backed country has been put in place for the last 10 years.
All right. Now, Seal 5 is the peace agreement.
Yeah.
It says how souls on the altar are complaining to the Father, why haven't you revenged us? Okay, that meant, that they had died, and yet their lives were not revenged because they're seeing a peace agreement.
Yeah.
And he tells them to go back to sleep. It's not the time because he knows that peace agreement is going to be broken midway. Now, whoever gets the glory, this is how we're going to know.
Yeah.
Whoever gets the glory for this peace agreement is our Antichrist.
Yeah. I'm
So
with you.
if you see, so to answer your question, if you see someone getting the glory for the peace agreement, then you're right. They have occurred.
Yeah.
Seal 3 and 4 have occurred.
It is possible.
But if we don't see someone yet dead, anything is possible to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But so if we see that happen, then you are correct.
Yeah.
But if we don't see that, then I still think that it's going to be more severe. The Bible says for watchmen to look for this. That's all we are. We're not predictors.
That if this event is to stick to its time frame that the Bible and all the other data points towards, there is only one opportunity for all those stars to be in alignment at one particular time. So I heard someone say something that there might be a 400-day window of that particular alignment. Will that alignment still be in line by the March after? Do you see where I'm coming from?
It's not, because the orbit of Jupiter, remember the moon has to be at the foot, and you sure arrive mid of night, not mid of day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So why would he give you a sign in the daytime when it's the nighttime is when he's coming?
Yeah.
It also tells you the daytime side of Earth is being hit. He says he would turn day into night, night into day. That is not an eclipse. Eclipse does not give you light in the nighttime.
Yeah. I know you mentioned earlier about all the different catastrophes that are coming around, and you said yourself, going underground is really a moot point.
You need a lot of food and water because your water wells, the lines on many of those will be sheared.
Yeah.
Okay, so you won't have water. You may not have electrical power even to pull up water. So water is your first priority.
Yeah.
So you have to have some form of water that's in bottles and jugs and stuff, enough to get through the crisis, which will be probably at least, maybe even a year long at least. Then you're going to have people, if you're doing well and your neighbor's not, that might make you a target.
Yeah.
So you have multiple issues with this. I only recommend to people, honestly, he's giving us a rendezvous point.
Yeah.
And it is Jerusalem, and it's scientifically sound. I would suggest people follow it. If they need money to go there, money will be available.
Yeah.
There's going to be certain people that bought the Nord to be millionaires, and they're going to be helping each other because money doesn't mean anything. If you're in this time period right here, money will be able to get you there. Money will be able to buy you food, but it doesn't help you on the other side.
No, that's right.
Place of safety or anything.
No.
Okay, so it's there to benefit the people who help in this end time. That's why he's blessing us with it. It's not to improve your 401k plan or anything like that, or your retirement plan. This is to, because he already told us, our adversaries are against the seed of Jacob. They're out to kill Jews and Christians, period. All this lip service that they're for you, they're not. Okay, look, if the system was really beneficial to Christians and Jews, then why are they letting Christians and Jews get slaughtered in Africa, in Syria, in Iraq, and they're exporting people with the Islamic faith into your country and ours? How come they're turning down the visas for the Christians and accepting the Muslims?
Well, they're actually setting the
slaughtering
stage.
The Christians.
Yeah, they're setting the stage.
Slaughtering the Christian and Jews.
And it is it's like world stage manipulation, world stage chess. They're moving masses of people around like pawns on a chessboard. It's actually quite staggering that they have the resources and the people in place in certain governmental and non-governmental organisations that are able to implement and allow movement of people almost to the extreme where they are literally playing a game of chess. The whole thing it feels scripted, Jill.
Well, look, what use would it be for a Jew and Christian to make it through this in his bunkers, underground facility, or even his apartment, okay, with food and water when the government is after you?
The question I was going to ask, so it slipped my mind just now, was just how many people can Jerusalem hold? I've never been there, and I must admit, I don't know. It's a genuine question. I mean, how many millions would be trying to make the journey to Jerusalem? I could see it getting to be a bit of a bottleneck. Just how many people could Jerusalem and surrounding areas accommodate?
I will send you a PDF later showing the actual figures, but let's say if you had the density of New York, okay, you can fit the world population of today, Texas. Now, keep in mind the New Jerusalem is half as large as the U.S. is. And, all right, so and come out the suburbs of New York and everything, okay? If you had that type of density, you could fit the entire world population in Texas.
I think you've answered just about every question we've got for you, but I mean, your current stance has not changed. You're standing behind the supported data. If you can't see it, it may well be down to the fact that the government are very good at cloaking things, or it may be down to the fact that we could be looking at next year. But for your gut instinct says 5 years, maybe if you're lucky. But this thing does exist.
I am greatly concerned for this march at the moment. Because there's so much mathematical data in the text that point to that, that gives me great concern. I would take the immediate threat more serious than I would take one that's 4 or 5 years away. So be alert, because saying something could be 5 years makes people kind of go to sleep.
Exactly.
I would say pay attention to what you're seeing in the sky. Don't be distracted by a Middle East war. And you should see something that looks like Venus to the left side of the sun after sunset. After the sun sets, if you see another object that looks like Venus that's that close.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Venus.
Yeah.
I'm looking for an object that looks about, just like we look at Venus in the sky.
Yeah.
It'll look like a very bright star,
Yeah.
possibly a comet-like object.
Yeah.
Then it's going to